Hey everyone, welcome to Birth Podcast. I'm Ash. Today we're going to talk with Nyema Clark. She is outside of Seattle, Washington, and she started a farm. And her aim, well, one of them, is to bring members of the Black community back to the earth, back to the land, a place that was once represented enslavement, and turn it into a place of healing, helping change people's perspective, and hopefully their life too. I'm going to let her tell the story a little bit more. Let's listen in.
We're in an urban community about 15 minutes south of downtown Seattle, the center of Seattle. So for me, there was bus rides downtown, lemonade stands. I think that was my first entrepreneurial endeavor, but doing lemonade stands and Spice Girls Clubhouse, but being able to just, from sunup to sundown, playing outside with my friends. I remember my mom would always say, be in before the street lights come on. My mom was a florist, so helping her out with different weddings. She often would make flowers out of money. So she would do those for like graduations or special occasions. But what I remember most is just her work ethic, starting a business, being a single mother until I was 9. She married my stepfather after. I just saw her always working and always taking care of business and single-handedly running a wedding and doing the flowers and helping organize the bridal party. And also she was a chemist. So the small business was her floral business, but she worked at Weyerhaeuser. So I remember going to her lab and they had this stuff. It's almost like what slime is now, or like Nickelodeon Gack. I don't know if you remember that, but it's like a little slimy little something. It stays dry, but you could play with it. And I just remember going into a lab, we had to put on our white coats and just seeing my mom as a superhero. I think when I was in high school, I was too into other things to experience farming or, the earth in the way that I experience it now. But definitely back then, it was all about beautiful flowers and arrangements and the glitz and glam, that plants, of course, attract you with. But there's so much deeper, that I wasn't necessarily engaged in until I got older and I started my business. But definitely my mom ingrained in me a business ethic. She gave me, I think, a grace being a woman and being able to kind of stand in a firm space and kind of own your space in this earth. I think she definitely gave me too.
Let's talk about your connection to the earth a little bit. Let's talk about your personal connection with it. Obviously, you grew up with a mother who understood that connection through chemistry, through even just the idea of picking flowers and understanding what those flowers were, and the depths of all of that. It is a very spiritual thing. And so how do you feel you've developed over time sort of your personal relationship with the earth as a woman, as a Black woman in the United States, as a person who has started many businesses and worked very hard? What is that relationship like for you?
So it is it's like a swaddle that I needed to be wrapped up in something that holds me. I feel grounded, being able to go on the farm and just experience being outside with my shoes off or just silent in the wind. It's like the earth provides so much healing and doesn't ask for anything back. It's almost like, of course, I don't want you to destroy me, but you didn't have to come with $1 million to feel this way. You didn't have to prove yourself and get in the cool club to be admitted. Like, this is something that I was able to just achieve by going outside and feeling. So I think I've been able to develop a sense of oneness that I don't need a lot of things. I've turned into, like, I was extremely materialistic in high school, but there was a film, Mean Girls. My girlfriends and I emulated the girls on that film and wore pink on Wednesdays, and that was my life. And it didn't matter if I was a capitalist. It didn't matter if I got this gift, I'd be over with it next year. But I think being more in touch with the earth has provided this almost acceptance for what is. Sometimes you're just not content enough. So I have, which ironically, my name Nyema means contentiveness and tranquility. But I have this, amount of content when I'm outside, just being dirty, being there with the earth. I think over the past year, just being able to develop a sense of understanding and just visually being able to look at bark and I can see the grooves in bark. And I tried psychedelics last year. So for me, it was being able to see things and feel things that I thought were there. I thought there was this realm that I couldn't achieve, or I couldn't hear this sound that was very obvious. And then after that, it was like the earth is crying and I could feel her. Like I felt, the strife in a plant, seeing the different hues in leaves and seeing how much younger and youthful the lighter ones are. And then just I was able to see so much more. So I think it's definitely provided just that opportunity to listen more within myself, to honor those thoughts, honor my instinct. There's certain things when you go into a yard or into my farm, I can see when a plant is in distress. Or you can see that, hey, this spider's not trying to hurt you. Why are you just going to kill it? Like just different things like that where it's in my house. I don't care. I'm going to kill it. The destruction that inherently will have on me. I'm more aware of that. Mentally, I think I've dealt with a lot of depression working for different jobs, just going to work, doing my best and it not being good enough. Or going to work and you realizing that in this capitalist system, it's about money. It's not about that customer's feelings. Make them buy as much as you can, regardless if they want one telephone, sell them a family plan. And to me, it's like my heart would hurt, but then I would look at my account and it would feel good. But now it's like, no, what really feels good is giving more than I receive. That is the thing that feels best. So I think being able to develop in this way with the earth has definitely enhanced the value of my humanity.
It's really beautiful, very poetic. You talked about healing. So how do you feel that the earth has contributed to healing something in your life? And then how do you take that healing and then reciprocate it back to the earth?
The earth has given me definitely a career that I can wake up and not want to press snooze. So it's given me that amount of grounding where often you feel like in your life you're at a fight or flight instead of rest and repair, So I think I was always in this space where, am I late? Am I on time? Okay, I got to make sure I'm doing this. Am I dressed right? Oh my gosh, my brows aren't done. I got to go and do this. Like I was always in this, and then always thinking again that I needed to do more, but it gave me the reassurance. And I think it healed my mind in a way that my anxiety was lifted, or that stress that I often felt, with going to work even. It's like it gave me a way to pay my bills without feeling like a wreck or somebody drag me by my edges every day. Living in the United States, people go crazy. Being a woman of color, sometimes I want to go crazy, Ash. And knowing that this system was created so that I go crazy and I fail. And then my kids will fail and their kids will fail. And then that means it's doing the right thing. That means it's correct. And to me, it's like, that's insane to have to tell people. It's insane to have to pay that forward, So for me, being able to show someone how they can change their circumstance. Excuse me.
You're okay.
But being able to show people who go into stores and can't afford to shop in the organic grocery department how they can have their own organic grocery department at their house. But it's given me a way to empower myself in this world full of things that just want to shut you down. And it's given me a value for even what my ancestors had to do. Ugh. And I'm already an emotional person. It's tough talking about things. I'm very happy right now. These are happy tears. But
these
it's definitely
these are good tears. These are
yes,
tears
they are.
of honesty.
Yes, indeed. But for far too long, I feel like our society, wants to perpetuate slavery, wants to perpetuate servitude, wants to perpetuate, this idea of not being, a gift to this world. So I think the earth has given me a way to look at that even as a joy, as a masterpiece that my family, my lineage, my blood fed the whole country. My blood got here through all of the people who didn't. It's like it's given me an opportunity to find the joy in what they went through. And then also what's passed down all the way in me. It's like I can find it. The world doesn't want Black people to find that inner strength that got us through everything that we've been through, and I've been able to find it. And I feel like it's like the earth wants that for everyone. The earth wants you to be able to, whew, the earth wants us all to be able to live harmoniously.
I agree with that. So tell me about nurturing roots. You come to the space of like understanding what your ancestors gave you, in spite of the fact that they gave it to you under the duress of others, of oppressors, and yet it still provides a space of healing for you, which is so important to even recognize. And the fact that you do recognize that is vital. It's vital for you, for the generations to come, because, and I've heard it there's a lot of indigenous sayings that talk about, when you heal yourself, you heal your ancestry. You heal the oppression that they went through, and that seems to be what you're aiming for. So you've developed nurturing roots. You've developed this plan to not just do this for yourself, but to do other people who need the same kind of healing that is necessary in the country. Tell me how you came to develop that and where you are now with it.
Yes. So nurturing roots, really, we got an opportunity on Beacon Hill. We were doing a lot of social justice organizing. So originally there was a youth jail, which is now there, a youth prison that they wanted to rebuild. And the city was able to get, was it 180 million to rebuild this prison. And for us, there was an average of 23 students or 23 young people in the prison. So for us, it's like, how do you even need a state of the art? You just need an alternative. Those kids don't need to be there. So we're doing all this social justice organizing here, and the church campus that we're on, we actually have a portable space owned by the church. And the church said, we have an old pea patch space. They knew that at the time I had a small business at Pike Place Market, but I was selling seasonings. So we were growing herbs. We were hoping to be the first recreational producers at Pike Place Market. So when the church asked a representative from our organization to take it on, I said, well, I would, and we can make a nonprofit program. And for me, I was kind of used up down at Pike Place. We were doing a lot for tourism and, giving all the products out. And so I was over that, and this was like the perfect opportunity for me to spend more time on campus organizing. So it started off me just, paying the bills on my own with my paycheck. We stretched a water hose, actually 3 hoses, to our farm space across from our portable. And we just started growing. But at first, a lot of folks were like, oh, okay, I'll come by. No one was really enthusiastic. Then I think it started wearing at my pockets, and it was like, we need to start it and create some kind of income for it. But it was a program at that point. So we just decided, let's just go 501c3 and let's just do it. But really, it really just started because I knew what was at stake. But yeah, nurturing roots really was because we needed to do something about food justice. I often was looking at different remedies. So I was dabbling with different remedies for hair growth, and you could use rosemary, and we could add our mint to do this. And so we were doing a lot of different dabbling with different recipes, and I started making body products. And so, of course, already producing the seasonings, and it just seemed like it would go hand in hand. With Nurturing Roots, one of our early workshops were the value-added product workshops. So identifying 15 to 20 different herbs, and now let's make products with them. And then you can add value, and if you need to sell these products and go to market, you can do that. So it started off as a way that folks could get more engaged, see the environment as more than just, oh, some plants. No, this is food, this is healthcare, this is, healing your mind, this is a sanctuary. It's all of those things. So I think it's just slowly evolved over time. We've done farm to table dinners, movie nights, and now we're slowly starting to get into what does it look like if we're going to have solar energy, or if we're going to be if we're going to be, no footprint, if we're going to reuse our water, if we're going to, be a lot more sustainable. So I think a lot more things are on our horizon, but Nurturing Roots really is a place where we don't make a lot of money off of selling produce. People get to come and volunteer twice a week. And then each time you volunteer, whether it's eggs or starts or, if we have chard, whatever's in season, you get to harvest and take home. So I think even that, people working in exchange for something that benefits them in a different way. I think it's kind of what I was getting, again, from the earth. It's like, I don't have to pay any of them, and they're so enthusiastic, and they always are so thankful. And I'm thinking, I just put you to work for 2 hours. In what other setting could I do that and then just say, well, just go pick something out of the yard? Thanks. To me, it's like, that's the most remarkable thing ever. And that's how I feel. I don't have to use my alarm clock. I don't have to hit snooze. And I was a snoozer. I was snooze-tastic. And so now it's like, it's like a gift. But Nurturing Roots to me is like, that's the perfect. I didn't think I would want to be a farmer or be a nonprofit director. I sure didn't go to school for it. I want folks to take away an empowerment and an identity on this earth that they can never get anywhere else. No one wants you to rely on, the earth as it is. People want to destroy the earth. People want you to want more, develop, get bigger. But no one wants you to just look at the simplicity of this asparagus growing out of the ground, snip it and take a bite. There's a lot of things that I think have scared folks from even doing that. You can't just pick that out of the ground and eat it, can you? It's like, why not? What's on it? So I will hope that when folks come to Nurturing Roots, and often folks say, it's like, I felt so good. That was the highlight of my week. I wanted to just get out of the house, and this is what I needed. And I never get my hands dirty. Or kids, we have a layout, and for the layout, we have a park that situates. So our parking lot, you have a park and a playground, a playground and a daycare. So we have to walk through the playground to get to our farm. So often when adults come and they bring their kids with them, sometimes the kids, of course, there's the allure of the park before they get to the farm. So I'm always, pretty patient to see, okay, are these kids going to make it past the swings and the slide, or are they going to have to stop? And sometimes it's like, they may run up the slide and run down. Come on, let's go to the farm. So then they walk in, and of course, it's like this oasis of all these different plants and different varieties, flowers, and I'm sure they hit the sense of the different herbs. So sensory, just amazingness. And then they see chickens run up to them, then they can feed them. And I say all that to say, being able to bring young people to the farm and then be enchanted with that, and not the commercial industry that's behind them and this allure of these slides, who really going down a slide, sure, that's exciting, but experiencing this chicken, you probably are not going to forget this moment. In the farm, we've been able to expand, so it's about a 1/4 acre. Going into the farm, we have our shed. Of course, there's a stage to our left that we made out of pallets that often the chefs that come and do farm-to-table dinners will set up their propane tanks and all their grills and their hot plates, and they have tents. And then down the center of our farm, it's surrounded by our rhubarb and artichoke and, our corn when it's in season. But down the center, we have our hay bales, and we usually have a long, 28-seater table. So folks can sit at the table.
I love that so much.
Right? There's a fire pit, there's chicken coop, but now we have 11 chickens. Nurturing Roots has been it's crazy. It's been in my life for so long, but now it's just turning into something that's
Tell me how you want this, because I've seen you quoted a few times where you kind of talk about wanting to be able to bring this back into, the Black communities and create the value and the healing and the space for that. And you've covered a little bit of it, but how can something like this, like farming, create a sense of justice and mercy in the country and maybe globally?
So definitely, I think self-reliance in general is something that I needed to be able to achieve in order to do something like I'm doing. Not being able to have a college degree and still sit at school board meetings or go and, sit on panels at universities who never would have accepted me if I applied, but now they want me to be keynote speaker for some conference. So I just think about moments where there are people that definitely have visited my farm and they've looked for a white farmer with overalls or some man somewhere that has to be at the hull of this. And to me, it's
the repeated, response that I have to give, that no, nurturing roots, I started nurturing. It's like there's something extra that has to be at play. So often, that is the rapport or reception that I get. There's been times where folks came on, and definitely I keep it blunt, no matter who you are, if you are, someone who's a white ally and you come on the grounds, I'll tell you the same thing that I tell someone who is coming on and they're a gentrifier on a chicken coop tour, advertised by the biggest white farm conglomerate in the city, but we're a part of that tour, so I can get the opportunity and let you know, yeah, I'm from this community, but my friends and I can no longer afford to live here. But I have this amazing space. So in hopes that my people can come back and see a nice, amazing space for them. But there are some folks in the community that are still here. And I think definitely identifying where agriculture started before for us, before slavery, before we got here, that's where it started. I've done a lot of farming with African farmers. So of course they're used to having acreage, 30 plus acres to farm on in their backyards. But here they've got an apartment windowsill and they're almost going nuts to be able to grow. So it's like being able to grow with them and see the different foods that they've eaten. Comfrey in Kenya is like a delicacy. And it's amazing for, I think it was your heart health. And I'm thinking, comfrey here is not used in that way. We don't often eat broccoli leaves. I've been able to discover about myself, oh, that's why I operate better when my grandmother would make me collard greens. Or that's why, when my grandma would pickle beets when she would get sick, like the probiotic, I would understand those things. So I think being able to even have nurturing roots where now I can show you from start to finish, and then you appreciate that piece of vegetable or that piece of fruit, young people that actually get a chance to see the vegetables in a new way. It wasn't that they saw it in this advertisement and somebody was saying, ew, gross. They got to see it in its true form when they planted it, saw it develop, then they have this bounty to share in. So I think definitely reconnecting to what food is. Food is not something that is a fad. Food nourishes your body. Your body needs it to survive. When we eat hollow, that is what we will project. That is all that our body can create. If our body is looking for something, how dare we give it something else in the place of it?
In a sense, you're giving, especially members of the Black community, ownership of their body. It's about what is your relationship to the food, what is your relationship to the ground. And I think that something like that, the more I understand about ecological justice, the more it makes so much sense to me.
Being able to identify our place. I was doing a talk a little earlier, and it's about, what are we indigenous to? A lot of times as a Black woman, I hear the word indigenous, and then it's like, so is that not me? Does it not include someone who was stolen and brought here? Because where do I belong? And what land am I indigenous to? Sure, I can pinpoint Africa, but where? So I think even in that sense, being able to feel that is something that often Black people have to manufacture. You have to find a way to have a sense of belonging, because so much of it was taken from you and destroyed. And so much of it intentionally is continuously destroyed. So I think finding a sense of belonging, you have to be able to feed and nourish our spirits, and society does not do it. And for Black folks, it is something unique. It is something that even, like I said, it's difficult talking about the farm to folks because some don't want to relive a trauma that's associated with slavery or associated with servitude. I want to be the executive at the highest level in the office so they know that I'm a Black person who's worth something, instead of you are a healer. Our doctors even, it's like, you guys don't heal anyone. I'd much rather go to my grandmother and get that soup and lay in her bed and have her do whatever she used to do. So I just think as a Black person in general, we have to be able to reconnect to something. This society wants you to end up like the brother this morning. It wants you to be gone. We're disproportionately affected by institutional everything, institutional racism, institutional bias. It's been difficult, especially coming from a farmer perspective, but I've just been seeing a lot more people in different fields, whether it's employment law, maternal health. We've been doing a lot of things with folks that are incarcerated.
Tell me more about that. Tell me more about your involvement with the incarceration. I'm really interested.
Yes, so there's a men's facility, Stafford Creek, that's located in Aberdeen, so closer to the coast of Washington. And in Aberdeen, of course, it's an outskirts city, so majority of the residents of this prison are from the inner cities, down the I-5 corridor. But they're housed in this prison, of course, who knows how long a lot of their sentences are. But they have activities, and one of the activities they have is farming and agriculture. And with the farming, they're growing in excess of 55, 60,000 pounds a year of organic produce. They don't use any pesticides, but the jail or the prison gets to donate it to food banks in the community. And the young men cannot eat it. And it's considered contraband for them to eat the food that they're growing at the prison. Like even grabbing a piece of lettuce and chewing it, you could get an infraction. So they heard about Nurturing Roots and they said, hey, we're farming, come on up, who knows if you could advocate for us. And I came in and heard their story, and to me it's like, if you can imagine what type of ways, I don't know, like we look at stories like Survivor Man, how you survive in the woods with a stick and, a leaf, how you can make it. If you can imagine in prison, it's the same thing. We're just as resourceful. So when you think about their composting, the guy was telling me that he put some of his old food underneath a tarp and he created, the greenhouse gas effect. And then he put a paper towel on top of that with saran wrap, and that was how he germinated his seeds. And he said he was just using the gases from his biodegrading food. Or the way that they have to get cups, and some of them, you only get a certain amount of items. So some of them would forfeit their cup, their plastic cup, poke holes in it. And of course, they don't have watering cans or hoses. So they would fill their cup, put it in someone else's cup, walk it out and water, but have the siphon so that you could, water with the shower. So even the ideas that they've had to manifest on their own high density crop, production, that they've just became expert growers and expert gardeners. But the idea of them even coming out, they may have a felony that will not allow them to work as a groundskeeper, perhaps at a school, even though they could probably really benefit from the employment, and the school could benefit from their expertise. But we're definitely helping with their nutrition standards. So how can we curb the food that's being outsourced? Right now, the prison manufactures majority of their food that they receive. So not only are the prisoners creating the food and putting it in cans, but then the prison gets to buy the cans from themselves, and then they eat the processed food when there's fresh, healthy stuff outside.
Not everyone necessarily can come to Seattle, so what can they take away into their own community?
I definitely always try to share with folks that, what I've been able to accomplish is because there was a passion. It didn't come with any, credential. I didn't go to any institution and them dubbed me queen of the farm. No one did that. I just really wanted to change the world around me. And I wanted to find a solution for this looming fear of death, this idea that soon I'm going to transition. And am I going to be okay with what I did here? I was talking to an aunt of mine who was passing from cancer, and she was a Jehovah's Witness. So for her, blood transfusion was out of the question. God was going to let her come home when it was time. And I didn't understand until I spoke with her. And I got it. And she just simply, said, when you're done here, you'll know. So you make sure you do everything you want to do while you have time. And so that even generated, this fire in me to find out what is going to make me feel like that. I got to find that for me. And, being able to actually fuel my passion and just learn to have that self-sufficiency, because we have it all. We came on this earth, of course we needed a vessel to pass us through, but once we got here, we're supposed to be able to figure it out. So who are we to just give that key to somebody else? What about your life? And, being able to feed that piece of you that will be there, that last moment of your life.
Her passion, it moves my heart to want to continue to have these hard conversations between white and black communities about how we can better come to ourselves, unify, create equality in our justice systems, in our economic systems, and in our environmental systems. Maybe it's in the environment where it begins. If you want to follow Nurturing Roots, and you want to follow what they're doing, how they're growing, if you want to follow how they're participating with the prison in their community, I'll put all of those links in the show notes. Check them out, click on them, engage, and maybe find ways in your community that you can bring a sense of environmental justice, that you can participate with it, that you can unify over it, that you can create wholeness in your body, in your community, in your spirit, conversation around these things. Thank you for joining us today. Pass this along, and we'll talk again soon. May you live and move and have your being. Cheers.